Hello, everyone. This is Aaron, and I'm here to answer a simple question. Why is Rogue Legacy 2? Rogue Legacy 2 is a roguelike game, maybe a roguelite game would be more accurate to say for it, where you play a family of adventurers fighting against an ancient evil that is just wrecking the world. The concept of the game is pretty cool, pretty straightforward. What happens is that this ancient evil arose and a hero went to fight them. The hero went into the castle and died. Subsequently, that person's child picks up the mantle and decides, you know what, I'm going to avenge my parent. I am going to go off and defeat this evil. And then they died. And then their child was like, well, you know, I guess I got to avenge my parents too, so I'm going to go in there. Oh, they're dead too. And this kind of keeps going on and on and on for many, many generations. What this allows is for the family over time to build up the village and also to progressively leave gear, skills, abilities, you name it, down to the children who will eventually go in and continue trying to defeat the bad guys. In terms of gameplay, Rogue Legacy 2 is what I personally would call a Metroidvania style game. You have lots of platforming, you have a castle that is just designed odd, let's say. Whoever this great evil is, they need to rethink their interior decor because this place is weird. One thing that is kind of interesting though is they redesign it every generation. I guess they figure, well, you know, the last person died in here, so I better redesign this to make sure the next person dies too, even though we're killing off an entire family line. I don't know why we have to worry about it, but whatever, we're going to keep changing it. Now, one thing I do have to say before I get too far into this is that I personally am not a fan of roguelikes, roguelikes, any of those style games. It's just not something that I enjoy. The idea of progressing, then dying, and having to start all over again, I've never been a big fan of that concept. That being said, one thing about roguelites that is really nice is the fact that there are usually mechanics set in place to where even after you have died, you don't lose everything. In a true roguelike game, what happens is you die and that's it. Game over, permadeath, and you have to start brand new game from the beginning and just hope you can get further. Roguelites, on the other hand, they allow you to kind of have at least some level of progression. The way Rogue Legacy does that, as I kind of mentioned before, is you go in to your castle, you fight enemies, you try and get as far as you can, and you eventually die. The money that character raised is then in the town for you to get upgrades. You can spend it on getting new classes, you can spend it on upgrading your health, your magic reserves, unlocking new abilities, gaining different parts of the town like the blacksmith who will then be able to forge you weapons. The upgrades that you get there, the items that the blacksmith can make you, all of those kind of things are a permanent boost. So the next character that you play as, they will have these boosts and make them a little bit stronger. So that's an amazing feature in my opinion. It's not unique to Rogue Legacy in any way. That's a much more common thing for roguelites in general. The idea of at least some kind of progression. And it is definitely very nice because instead of having to start over 100% new game level 1, you start over and the castle's totally different, so you don't know where you're going. However, you at least do have that health boost you got, or you do have that extra 15% to attack speed or whatever you want to mention. That's a very good mechanic, and Rogue Legacy does it well too. One thing that they also do very well in this game is the scaling of the enemies. So whenever you first get in, your enemies are not going to be very deadly, they're not going to be too weird or difficult to figure out on how to fight. But as you go further into the castle, they will start getting harder and harder and tougher. But to counter that, like I've already mentioned, you get your bonuses. So every character that you roll up and go in with is just a smidgen stronger. Well, the enemies also get a smidgen stronger. But one thing that some games struggle with when they do that is they either will make the character power up too quickly and then the game kind of becomes like a cakewalk, or the reverse will happen and the enemies will power up a little bit too quickly and you won't be able to make any progress anyways. A third thing that can happen sometimes is that they did too good of a job of having the enemies keep up with you, and that makes it to where you get all these bonuses, all these new classes, all these new abilities, what have you, but you actually don't make any progress whatsoever because all the enemies are still exactly as tough as you are. That third option right there, that's the Elder Scrolls option in my opinion. It started with Oblivion and it got perfected with Skyrim. There is no scaling in Skyrim whatsoever. It doesn't matter how powerful your character is or isn't. Your enemies are always exactly as tough as you are, which is one of the main reasons why, and this is a hill I will die on and a hill for another video, Skyrim is the worst of the Elder Scrolls games. Yeah, I said it, and I mean it. But back to Rogue Legacy 2, the more important game. Rogue Legacy 2, as I said, does a very wonderful job with this scaling. It's incremental. And so you get a little bit more powerful, your enemies get a little bit more powerful, but you still have moments where you just breeze through them. And then you have moments where you can't. And that kind of balance, it makes the game still fun to play when you're starting over and over and over again. It makes it to where you feel like you got something because you got this power up or new class or what have you. But it doesn't make it to where there's no more fun to be had because, oh, well, now I'm OP. You don't have to worry about that. It's wonderful. Another thing about Rogue Legacy that is actually, in my opinion, the best part of it is the visuals of this game. This game is gorgeous. The art style in it is amazing. It does something that a lot of games do and a lot of Metroidvania games especially will do, wherein there will be like a type of enemy and you'll just see different versions of that enemy over and over and over again. Back in the day when graphics were a lot simpler because of hardware restrictions, we called it palette swapping. Because what would happen is you would go into a room and you'd fight, oh look, there's a blue guy. I gotta fight the blue guy, and you'd kill the blue guy. And then a couple stages later, you'd run into the exact same sprite, the exact same moveset, the exact same enemy, except they would be red, and they were tougher. And that was palette swapping. It also happened a lot whenever you would have characters that were the exact same, but they just changed their color or their outfit. Think Ken and Ryu in the older Street Fighter games, or Sub-Zero. Well, Sub-Zero and Scorpion, as I was about to say, that's not really a good example because they do have different abilities, but back in the original Mortal Kombat games, it was the same dude, just a different color shirt. But Rogue Legacy, it does do that to an extent. You'll see the same kind of enemies over and over again, you know, these like gauntlets holding daggers that fly in the air, but there's subtle differences to them. Not just color, they'll actually look a little bit different. It'll be a different kind of dagger, it'll be a different kind of axe, or just whatever it is. And it's a really subtle, nice touch to give variety while still maintaining mechanics throughout the game. But the art style of this game is the high point for me personally. Like I said, I am not a roguelite/roguelite player. I just don't like these games. But Rogue Legacy is just phenomenal looking. It's just phenomenal looking. And it's just a 2D scroller kind of thing, but it's so good. It's so crisp and clean. And I have to appreciate that. And one thing, even me, a person who's not a fan of these style games, has to be able to appreciate is the fact that they made these mechanics work really well. One thing that you have to do, if you're going to have a game that's going to intentionally either kill you or be difficult or what have you, you have got to make sure your mechanics are on point. Because if your mechanics aren't on point, then a game that's supposed to be challenging instantly goes to impossible and annoying, at least for someone like me. And I think a lot of people might agree with that part too, because crap mechanics are one of the things that's instantly going to make you just not like a game. But Rogue Legacy, like I said, it's smooth, it's responsive, and it's simple enough to pick up and instantly kind of grab hold of, but it still gives you plenty of options to make the game interesting and involved. You know, it's not just smash A and run. You've got to worry about jumping, dodging, dashing. You've got a little like falling sword slash that you can do to let you bounce off of objects. And you've got to be able to balance doing all that stuff, but it's actually really easy once you get the hang of it. So it's very nice in that way. Another thing that I really like in Rogue Legacy is its sense of humor. It's got a very simple, I guess is the word you could use, sense of humor, but it's just fun. It's just a good, silly kind of sense of humor where it kind of pokes fun. Even characters will have awkward dialogue moments, which is really nice. Like one of the characters you can unlock pretty early in the game is a training dummy, and when you go and talk to them, they're just like, yeah, this is what I do. I'm not really good at small talk, so how's the weather? And it's just fine. It's just good. Like having that little bit of cheese in there. The proper amount of cheese makes everything better, and that's just how it is. Rogue Legacy 2, not my kind of game, but it's still a good game. I feel like it really is. If you like this genre, if you like Metroidvania or if you like roguelites, then this one has to be on your list. And that brings us to the original question, as it so often does. Why is Rogue Legacy 2? And put simply, Rogue Legacy 2 is to show that you don't need crazy mechanics, graphics, whatever, to make an amazing game. You can take the easy, distinct route, so to speak, with your graphics or with your game design, and it will work wonderfully. I mean, this is 2022, and this is a 2D scroller, and it is amazing. And I think it is a perfect intro to the genre too. If you've never played a roguelite game, then you should definitely start with Rogue Legacy. They made one, original one, not too long ago, and then they came out with this one here. I personally would say start with Rogue Legacy 2. I don't really think you need to worry too much about story crossover or confusion. Go with this one. They really perfected what they were going for with this. And if you are not a fan of this genre, or if it's a genre you've never attempted before, this is the perfect intro because it is going to allow you to experience the genre while still giving you that progression that you need as a player. Something, if you're someone like me, that way you can at least feel like you're getting somewhere, even though you just died 20 times in a row. That's a very satisfying feeling for me. All right, so that brings us to the end and to our interesting fact that I'm always going to be doing, apparently. This game, Rogue Legacy 2, was designed and developed by Cellar Door Games. They're a Toronto-based company, and the interesting fact for them is that they have a game in their library called Don't Shit Your Pants. So yeah, that's good advice. And some more good advice is behave yourselves and go play some games.